Okay, so today we are going to learn Perek Ches, or 8. It's one of those that I know by heart because my very first year of teaching, I taught 7-year-olds. And so after davening every morning, we said this Perek of Tehillim. And when I started preparing it by someone's request, I was thinking, where do I know this from so well off by heart? And that's where I know it from. So this capital of Tehillim, it's according to the Rambam. This is the guideline for us whenever we want to work on our trust in Hashem, our belief in Hashem, when we want to see the greatness of humans or the relationship between us and Hashem, then this capital, chapter 8, is the one to turn to. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Chabad Rebbe, said that this capital is. What? So I thought someone's telling me something.
Nobody earlier in the queues were telling. Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay, if you could mute.
I saw this morning people walking from there, so I think you've come from the right direction. Exactly, me too. Exactly the same. What's this here?
I don't know how to mute people.
Is it lunch?
You have to mute yourselves because I'm trying, but.
And you know what? Our phone just came.
Sorry. I don't know how to mute people.
Should have a thing on the bottom left if it gives the mute.
That's what I thought, but then it's muting me also.
I was here. I've been here about 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Lorraine.
They're now doing yeah.
Lorraine.
Yeah.
If you could mute yourself, please.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. No, it's all right. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So just to go over that a little bit. The Frierdiker Rebbe comments about this and says that he explains that this capital Tehillim explains or tells us about Hashem's kindness in giving us the Torah, despite the fact that the angels and the heavenly bodies did not want us to have it. So let's look at it. Let's look at the capital inside and see what it actually says. So Perek Ches begins. Lamnatseach al Hagitis Mizmor David. So again, remember that whenever we see the word Lamnatseach, that's hinting to us that this is one of the chapters that was sung in the Beit HaMikdash, and these are the instructions to the choir master, the head of the musicians, and he's being told what kind of instrument to play with. He's being told to use the gittis, and we've come across the exact same introductory verse in some of the other chapters, or at least in one other chapter that we've learned so far. By most opinions, the gittis is a musical instrument made in a place called Gat, who are very famous for making beautiful musical instruments. I always wonder about this. My son went to yeshiva in Kiryat Gat in Israel, and it was not a place where they made musical instruments. But I guess the time of David HaMelech, Kiryat Gat was the place where beautiful musical instruments were made. So at a simple level, that's what this beginning line is. To the chief musician, you should sing this song in the Beis HaMikdash using the musical instruments that were produced in this place called Gat. A little bit of a deeper understanding of this. is that this particular chapter was made in honor of a man called Eved Ha'edomi. He was the man who looked after the Aron until David could bring it to its resting place. He looked after the Aron for about 3 months, I think, and he was a Levi, and he sang in the Beit HaMikdash, and this chapter was made in his honor. He came from a place, or he was from the family of the Gittim, and so Lamnatseach, the chief musician, who should sing this chapter of Tehillim? The family of Oved, who are Gittim. Okay, so sing it on the Gittis. And then the third and deeper explanation, which comes from Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, where he explains that Gat is a wine press, and he says that when you press grapes with a wine press on the gut, so what are you doing to the grapes is that you're bringing out the best of them. You're taking an ordinary grape and you're turning it into wine. But anybody who doesn't know is looking at the person who's doing it and saying, "Are you crazy? You're crushing the grapes, right? You are spoiling the grapes." And so says Reb Shamshon Raphael Hirsch that this is what it says. Lamnatseach. We're going to sing this song confidently because David HaMelech, who went through so many trials and challenges and difficulties, is telling us that when we go through challenges, when we go through difficulties, we should know that it's al hagitis. It's on the wine press. In other words, it looks like Hashem is crushing us. It looks like he's squeezing us and maybe wasting us and making us rot, but actually he is bringing out the best in us. And what is the best that he's bringing out in us at this particular time is that he's making us realize his greatness. Okay, Antilinki, if you could mute, I don't know how to mute you, please. Okay, he carries on Pasuk Beis. He says, Hashem Adonenu ma'adir shimcha b'chol haaretz asher tna haidcha al hashamayim. Hashem, our master, how powerful is your name throughout the earth. Asher tna haidcha, that you have put your glory al hashamayim here from the heaven. And what is it saying to us? So first of all, take notice of the name of Hashem that's being used here. Hashem, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey name of Hashem, which we refer to, we call it Havaya because it's the name of Hashem, which refers to the fact that Hashem was, he is, and he will be. So Hashem, and this is Hashem in his kindness, who is there always, was, is, and will be. Adonenu, our master. And what do we say about him? We say Ma'adir. How powerful, how amazing, Shimcha b'chol haaretz, that your name is in the whole land. So let's understand that Hashem is actually, Hashem's greatness is too big for the world. Hashem is much, much too big for the world. And so our first thing is that we say to Hashem, it's so amazing. We're so happy with you, so to speak, that you put some of your greatness into the world so that we can benefit from it. And how do we? Through the various names of Hashem. So each name of Hashem teaches us or shows us some essence of Hashem, some part of Hashem, because we know that Shimcha, one's name, represents their essence. It represents who they are. And even at a very surface level, one of the things that we take notice of, if you see people with the same name, you very often see similar characters in the different people with the same name. So, for example, there are a lot of Chaya Mushkas, and almost all the Chaya Mushkas, it's a big generalization, have got strong characters and stubborn as anything. Okay, stubborn as anything. And so we see like things run through with various names. So that's talking just about people. And again, obviously, I'm talking on a very surface level. But Hashem, each name of Hashem represents something of his greatness. And what is the greatness that we're seeing in this perek? We're seeing Hashem's greatness through his world, through the way he created his world. And when we see various things in the world, different creations in the world, our reaction should be, my dear, how amazing, how powerful, how wonderful is it? And we should also keep on reminding ourselves that how great of Hashem that he allowed us to get a taste of his greatness in this world. Because remember that that the angels did not want us to have a greatness, to see the greatness of Hashem in this world, which we'll see a little bit. We'll see it now. The angels did not want us to have the Torah, as you all know, the famous medrash that the angel said to Hashem, "Why are you taking it down into the world?" And Hashem gave it to us anyway, and said, "You can." The angels felt that the Torah was too big and too great and too powerful for the world, and Hashem said, "No, I'm going to put it in the world, and I'm going to put it in the world in such a way that people will be able to look at it and they'll be able to see godliness in the world, in the physical world as well." And so he continues, David HaMelech, and he says, "Mipi eilelim v'yonkim," out of the mouths of babies and those who are still suckling, Yisada ta'oz, Hashem made his strength, the foundation of his strength, Lama'an sererecha, for those who deny you, lahashbis oyev u'misnakim, to quieten or to answer your enemies and those who are against you. So what is this idea? It doesn't seem to fit together, that out of the mouths of babies and children who are still suckling, that this is the foundation of Hashem's strength. So quite a few commentaries on this. I'll give you a little taste of some of them. So the one that seems to make the most obvious sense to us is that if a person wants to see the greatness of God, one of the first places we should look is at childbirth and babies. This is something which is a miracle that happens all the time. It's a miracle that we take for granted. We think it's just normal that people should just get married and have babies. And we don't stop to think about the unbelievable greatness of the fact that a baby grows inside someone, and then it's delivered, and then the mother has the capability, the ability to feed it. Says the Radak, if a person wants to believe in Hashem, the first thing that they should do is realize the miracle of having a child. Just from watching a baby and the whole system of how a baby is born and then survives, this should make us believe in Hashem absolutely and completely. I had this once, and I'm sure I've shared with you before, but when I had Chaya, it was a different doctor. We had just come to Cape Town, and he said to me when Chaya was born, he said, "You have a beautiful little girl," and he was crying, and my reaction was, "What's wrong with my baby?" And he said, "No, nothing's wrong with your baby. Thank God you've got a perfect little girl." And I said, "No, something is for sure wrong with the baby. Why are you crying?" And he said to me, he cries when he sees a baby being born, the miracle of a baby being born. And if we could all do that, if we didn't take miracles for granted the way we do, we would see godliness, much bigger godliness. And this is the first explanation I bring you on these words, from Yisada Ta'oz, that Hashem's the foundation of Hashem's strength. If we want to see Hashem's greatness, it's through watching the fact that babies are born. The second level of understanding this comment says that Hashem is so evident in the world, and it's us who don't always see Hashem. If we would look at little children and we would learn from little children, they see Hashem, they don't overthink Hashem, and they get on with it. And says Reb Shamshon Hirsch, he says, learn from a child, just to accept that there's a God in the world, and just to accept what he does, and accept what he says, and don't try over understand. Okay, just get on with it. You ask a little child, who did that? They'll say Hashem. Why Hashem? Who says you can't eat that? Hashem, right? They don't think deeply into everything, and says that is the foundation of emunah, to believe uncomplicatedly, if that's a word, in Hashem, just just as children do. And the Ma'am Lois goes one step further with this and says, learn from a baby how to behave. Be busy all the time, right? Babies don't just sit doing nothing. They are busy all the time with doing something, moving, eating, touching. And he says, so remember that, okay? If you want to be successful, learn from a baby. Be busy all the time. And when you need or want something, nag and cry until you get it. And this actually, the Rebbe tells us about Mashiach, that we should be nagging and crying for Mashiach until Hashem gives us whatever it is that we want, that we need, and that we are nagging for. Another level of understanding these words, is to understand that the existence of this world is the foundation of the existence of this world is based on what says Tinoikas shel beis Rabban, that tells us in the Gemara that the learning of little children is what keeps the world up. Okay, and that's why everybody should give some of their tzedakah towards children learning, because the very existence of this world depends on children learning Torah. The Gemara says that Rav Papa and Abaya were talking to each other, and Rav Papa said to Abaya, sorry, the other way around. Rav Papa said, Abaya said to Rav Papa that the world exists on the learning of children, and he responded. He said, "Hey, 1 second. What about us? We learn great Torah every day. My Torah, your Torah. We learn Torah great." And Abaya replied, and he said, "There is no comparison to the learning that children do with their innocence, their innocent breath, to the learning that any of us do." And in fact, the commentaries say that this is from this pasuk, from this phrase of this pasuk, is where we learn that we have an obligation to start teaching children Torah from when they're very young. As soon as a child can say a word of Torah, we must teach them to start saying Torah, because this is the foundation of the strength of Hashem in this world. And what is this all about? Says David HaMelech. He says, "Laman Sarerecha." This is because of the people who deny you. And what does this actually mean? Because of the people who deny you. So we just said that Hashem is so evident in the world. Who's denying that there is a Hashem? And the commentaries explain to us that godliness is there in the world if we want to see it. If we don't want to see it, we can explain it in any way we want. We can explain it away. And why would a person want to explain it away and not see godliness? Is because the more godliness we see, the more beholden we feel to God. And the more godliness we see, the more we feel that we're responsible and we've got to do what he wants. And so the more we deny Hashem, or deny parts of his strength, or deny seeing godliness in the world, then the less we feel obligated to do what Hashem wants. And so says David HaMelech, Hashem is so obvious. Hashem is there with little children, and Hashem is there in nature around us. And so how do we manage to deny Hashem? He says that this is something that a person would have to do. Okay, and Rabbi Pliskin tells the famous story of the person who looks at he looks outside and he sees that everything is pink, and he says, how did my washing turn pink? How did everything go pink? Until finally he realized that there was pink all over his glasses, whatever he had splashed his yogurt or whatever it is on his glasses. We see what we want to see. How our glasses are, that's how we can see Hashem. And David HaMelech says in Pasuk Dalet, he says, Ki er'eh shamecha, because I see your name. Okay, so I'm seeing the godliness that you're putting in the world. Ma'aseh etzba'asecha, the work of your fingers. Yareach v'chaychavim, the moon and the stars. Asher kainanta, which you created, which you made. So this. Again, David HaMelech is giving us another way of seeing godliness. And he says, just look up at the sky. You want to see godliness? look at the sky. And when you see the sky, you're going to see God. And interestingly, he doesn't say, look at the sun. He says, look at the moon and the moon and the stars, which brings all the commentaries to say that David HaMelech wrote this perek of Tehillim at night. Okay. And it was there at night that he was inspired to write this. And he was inspired. He saw godliness by looking up at the sky and seeing the stars and the moon. And there's also something that we should be doing. Looking at the stars and the moon and seeing godliness in it. Says David HaMelech over here, this is Ma'aseh Etzba'esecha, the work of your fingers. So there are all different levels of godliness in the world. Actually, there are 10 different levels of heaven, so to speak. And the one that's called Ma'aseh Etzba'esecha is the level where the Kisei HaKavod, the godly throne, is there. And so David HaMelech says, through this world, we can actually bring ourselves to see the highest levels of holiness. We can bring ourselves to see godliness in its very, very specificness. And he says, why is it called a Ma'aseh Etzba'esecha when we see godliness? So an etzba, a finger, is something we use to point. And when we see something that's amazing, we point it out, right? We point it and we say, look, okay, look over there, right? We point to it with our fingers, just like at the time that the Yam Suf was split, and it says that the people pointed and we said in our davening in the morning, there's God, right? And it says when Mashiach comes, we'll also point and we'll say, there's God and there's godliness. And says David HaMelech, already now in Galus, in exile, we can look at various things around us, and he gives us this idea, look at the moon and the stars, and point and say, there's godliness. There is God in the world, even when it's dark outside. I think there is God in the world. Again, the commentaries point out that specifically he's talking about moon and stars more than anything else, because we Yidden are compared to stars. And what is the greatness of stars? That each one is different. It's not everybody's going to see godliness in the same way, and not everybody's going to react to godliness in the same way. Each one of us is different. Each one of us has our own Aveda. We have our own work. We have our own journey. Each one of us have our own thing that we need to be doing, but see your godliness through your star, so to speak. Point to it and figure it out. The Rebbe continues now, and he speaks about the fact that the more we see godliness, the more we realize how small and nothing we are. Okay, and that should be the first level of reaction to seeing great godliness in the world. He says, Ma enosh kisses keren. What is man that you remember him? Uvein Adam kisif gedenu. And an ordinary person that you think of him. So that's our first reaction. We see this amazing godliness in the world, and we start thinking, like, what am I? Okay, am I anything? Am I worth anything? And the first thing of realizing great godliness in the world is wondering about ourselves. Like, who are we? What are we? Do we deserve this? Do we deserve this attention from Hashem? And David HaMelech says, isn't that amazing? That Hashem turns to us and gives us what we need and provides us with motivation, inspiration, even though we are Enosh or Ben Adam, even though we just regular, ordinary human beings. It says actually that this is the line that the angels used when Hashem said he's giving the Torah to the Jewish people. The angels said, "Ma enosh kisses Karen. What is man that you're remembering him, that you're giving him the Torah?" And what does Hashem respond to this? He said, yeah, I'm giving it to them. I'm giving it to them because they are going to keep Torah and mitzvahs. And it uses the word kisifkedenu, that you, Hashem, remember. And this word sifkedenu, from the root pakad, to remember, is not the ordinary word for remembering, but it's a word that is remembering and doing. Okay, Hashem doesn't just remember us. hello, Rivki, here I am. That's not just remembering us, but he remembers us and does things for us. And that's what the angels were like, what are you doing that for human beings? Continues David HaMelech. He says, you made man like just a little bit less than angels, and you crowned him with honor and with glory. So what does it mean that Hashem made man just a little bit less than angels? And actually, when I teach grade 9, I always tell them humans are greater than angels, right? Humans are much greater than angels. Angels start off more spiritual than humans because they're very spiritual, and we humans have to make the choice of whether or not we see God. So we know that Kabbalistically, humans are called Haylech or Holchim. They're walkers. I always say like the Johnny Walkers, and the angels are Eindim. They stand still. The way an angel is created, that's how he'll be forever. So when Hashem created angels, he maybe created them greater than man, but he gave us free choice. And with our free choice, we decide if we want to be good men or not. When we make the choice to follow our Yetzer Tov, to do good, and not to follow our Yetzer Hara, then we reach a level of the Chavod v'Hadar Ta'atrehu, that Hashem crowns us with glory. He says, yes, you chose to be good, and therefore I crown you. That's why I think you are. I acknowledge you and crown you and make you make it obvious to everyone that you are great. Tamshilehu b'maaseh Yadecha. You gave man the ability to rule over all the things of the world. Everything that you made, you put beneath his feet. And so the Metzudos explains, he says that not only Hashem created us, but he also gave us the ability, firstly, the appearance of being the greatest of all creations. And then he also gave man the ability to rule over nature to such an extent that man was able and is able to control nature, if we could say that. So for example, we have a Moshe Rabbeinu who could split the sea. That's the opposite. Like he could do something to nature which wasn't natural. We have a Yehoshua who managed to stop the sun. He could do something to nature which wasn't natural. So Hashem gave man this power when man proved himself, when man showed that he believed in God, that he chose God, that he saw godliness. Hashem given us this power. Says David, he continues, he says, the flocks, the herds, the beasts of the field, Sipar Shamayim, the birds of the heaven, and the fish of the sea, Eiver Orchos Yamim, who even sail the oceans. So Hashem made man, when he deserves, be in charge of all of the physical things of the world. And he concludes the Perek by saying, Hashem Adonenu. So this is the same as the beginning, if you look back at line 2, as Pasuk Beis, Hashem Adonenu, Ma Adir Shimcha B'chol Haaretz. How powerful is your name through the whole earth? And this is what David HaMelech is concluding. He's saying, you want to see greatness, look in the world. The more you look in the world, the more greatness and godliness you'll see. And as you see greatness and godliness, recognize Hashem. Keep that circle of recognizing Hashem over and over, and then you will be great, and you'll see the greatness of yourself. You'll see the greatness of God, and this will be a continuous cycle. And that brings us to the end of Perek Ches. Have a good day, everyone, and a good Shabbos.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful Shabbos, and take care.
And you.
Thank you.